Hi everyone, here's the Bookchemist once again. The idea for today's video comes from a comment left by one of you guys recently, where they asked which books among the books I read does not make it to video form and which books I decide not to review and to leave out of the channel. And I realized that was actually a very interesting question and that it forced me to acknowledge some possibly problematic ideas related to the channel. And I'll talk about it in this video, and I'd really like to start a discussion with you guys. Before I begin, I should mention that today's video is sponsored by Skillshare, with which I already collaborated last year. Skillshare is a website where creators of all different kinds, from writers to artists to video makers to photographers to chefs, post video classes and courses where they teach you new skills, they give you new perspectives and new ways to approach your favorite hobby or passion, or to get you started with something you've always wanted to try, be it photography, be it cooking at a different level. I highly recommend you check out Skillshare because it's full of beautiful and very insightful classes and courses, and I'm sure you'll find something that interests you. And I'll talk about Skillshare more at the end of the video. What you should know is that there's a link in the description box if you want to access a 2-month free subscription to the website. I highly and honestly encourage you to check it out. It's great. Now, what books I don't review on my YouTube channel? There are a few types of books that don't make it to video form, don't make it to a review for a variety of reasons. I'll start with the most problematic, which is novels and fiction in general, novels and short story collections. I tend to review most of the fiction I read, I would say the vast majority of it. The books in this category that I tend to skip, and I know this is problematic, this is troublesome for a variety of reasons, are the books I don't like. I don't read too many of those. One of the things I believe I've gotten good at as a reader throughout my life is assessing whether a given book or a given author, I tend to base my choices more on author than on individual book these days, will be to my liking. I will find it stimulating, maybe I will adore it, maybe I won't, but still it will give me something, or whether I should maybe set it aside. But I do occasionally encounter a book, a short story collection, a novel that I just don't enjoy. Once more, I understand how problematic it is not to talk about that stuff, but I still stand by my choice. An article I live by and that I consider one of the most stimulating pieces of short writing I've ever read came out a few years back when Ursula Le Guin passed away. And it's an article by Joy Fowler, a wonderful writer, where she listed the lessons that she learned from Ursula Le Guin as a writer, sure, but as somebody who lives in books and in art more generally speaking. And these are lessons that I think are relevant not just to creators but to everyone who is passionate about literature and passionate about art. And of course, as with all the rest of the material I'm referencing in this video, there are going to be links in the description box if you want to check out the article and the rest of the stuff I'll talk about. And in this article, Joy Fowler mentions this idea that as a reader, as a creator or a reader who's passionate about art, you should speak out for the stories and the narratives that are relevant to you and that you find valuable and stimulating and beautiful, even though you probably would sound more discerning and clever if you actually trashed the stuff that you don't like. I think this is especially clear in the age of the internet. I remember a video from CGP Grey from a few years back where he explains this concept that angry content, the stuff, articles, videos that makes us mad, tends to be shared and tends to spread in terms of popularity much more widely and much more successful than actual cheerful and positive content. And that makes total sense. In terms of entertainment, it's very fun to watch the nostalgia critic or the angry video game nerd just bash an awful piece of entertainment that deserves to be bashed and trashed. Even if I think about one of my very favorite reviewers and possibly the person who more than anybody else convinced me to start this channel, which is Anthony Fantano at The Needle Drop, he reviews music, I sometimes get the impression that the videos people tend to talk about the most or obsess over the most among his videos, and he posts a lot, are those videos, those reviews where he dislikes an album or a popular record that people otherwise tend to praise and enjoy a lot. Even among booktube, whatever that is, you do find reviewers of otherwise brilliant and insightful content occasionally reading the 50 Shades of Grey and telling people that it's bad. Who knew? But I don't subscribe to that, and I am pretty happy talking about books I enjoy and I'm passionate about. The reason why I still repeated that it's problematic, and it is that on the one hand, among the many problems with my channel, I think the main one is that I sometimes get the feeling that it's just my inner teenager. The entire point of the Bookchemist is my inner teenager shouting at the camera going, "Isn't this stuff awesome? Oh, it's so great, it's so amazing." I get the feeling that I'm always just praising stuff non-stop, but at the same time I don't give people a point of reference. I never talk about books that I actually don't enjoy or don't love, which makes it sound as if everything I read just makes me go crazy with pleasure. I also inevitably think back to a very relevant seminal piece of criticism by Hungerford, published in 2016, called On Not Reading, which is a must-read, the article itself, for anyone who's interested in literary criticism, more broadly speaking, on this idea of talking about books. In that article, she argues that herself as a professor, but everyone who has any kind of role talking about books and about art, has a responsibility even when it comes to not reading certain types of content, not talking about it, not teaching it, or spreading it more widely in general. And this doesn't just mean professors or people with 1 million subscribers on YouTube. It even means you, if you like to talk about the books you read with your boyfriend or girlfriend, with your mom, with your friends, if you're in a book group, anyone whatsoever. And it's a bit paradoxical, because if I don't talk about the books, am I actually eschewing my responsibility on that front, or am I subscribing to that idea that I shouldn't diffuse art that I don't think is valuable and I don't think is worth your time? I do believe, though, that it's important and it makes sense to talk even of entertainment, of art that we consider flawed, we consider crucially flawed, that we consider bad art. It's important, it's something that needs discussing. I sometimes don't feel like the YouTube video is the right format for that purpose. I have posted in past videos where I give negative reviews to certain books, even certain classics. The Scarlet Letter comes to mind. Or where I explain the reasons why I moved away from a certain author. In particular, I filmed a video where I explained why I moved away from David Foster Wallace, with which I was obsessed when I was 18 and 19. And people didn't take it very well. But I think the reason is that, and I'm not trying to second guess people's reaction, maybe I was just maybe without realizing it, and by all means without intending it, I actually came across as arrogant or douchey in those videos. And I apologize for it if it's the purpose. I think sometimes people approach negative reviews, with this idea that the reviewer is bashing something they're very passionate about. And I understand that, I understand why that's irritating, I understand why that motivates people to write back and say, "Oh, you just lost a fan, oh, you don't know what you're talking about, oh, you're stupid, oh, your hair looks silly." And that's not really stimulating discussion. It's not the kind of discussion I think we should generate when we talk about bad art and bad entertainment. One of the great joys of having the YouTube channel is discussing books I'm passionate about, discussing Pynchon and Chabon and Lethem and Egan and all these people with you guys in the comment section. I find that it's very rarely the case that I get that kind of discussion in negative reviews. It's by no means your fault, you as in the broader audience. It's by all means my fault, and maybe just a tiny bit a fault of the media I use, YouTube. Again, that idea that the internet is a good place for spreading anger, but maybe not as good for balanced and profound discussion. And again, It happens all the time in the comment section that I discuss with people who are great fans of David Foster Wallace or other writers that I dislike, and we have stimulating and very interesting talks about these people and their art, and we don't even agree to disagree. That's a very stupid expression. We just understand and appreciate how we come from different perspectives. It's just that when I film explicitly negative reviews, I get the sense that I don't particularly enjoy filming them. I don't get the sense that the people who watch them really get anything out of them more than occasionally a chance to vent their frustration. I don't see too much of a point, considering what my plan for the YouTube channel, what my ideas for the Bookchemist are. I also think that part of the reason why this is that there's this idea on the internet that people watch reviews, especially in places like YouTube, not really to find a new perspective on something they're interested in, but to gather pre-existing ideas on a certain book or album or board game, video game, whatever, confirmed, so that then when their ideas are not confirmed with the reviewer as a different opinion, they take it as a chance to tell the reviewer why they're wrong, rather than engage in discussion. But again, I sound such a douche. I sound like I'm criticizing everybody watching YouTube, and I hope you understand that wasn't my point. It was more an explanation why I don't necessarily engage in certain types of videos too often. Other books I don't review. I tend not to review poetry, at least not lyrical poetry. I sometimes review narrative poetry, say Mr. Either Or by Aaron Puchigian, masterpiece, amazing novel in verse. I did film a review of that one. I'll probably be filming a review of The Golden Gate by Vikram Seth sometime soon, but I tend to avoid talking about lyrical poetry, mostly because it's not my department, and other than crying in front of the camera after reading a Keats poem, I don't think I could film videos of great interest when it comes to that. I don't review non-fiction, mostly because I don't read it. It's a bunch of lies anyway, but I like music writing, and I especially like the 33 1/3 series by Bloomsbury. I'm sure you've seen these around. They're mostly great. They are books focusing on a single masterpiece, on a single album in popular music, broadly speaking. I filmed some reviews of these guys in the past, but I think it's a very niche audience, people who enjoy the album, have read the book, and are interested in a review of it. Sometimes you read this idea that writing about music is like dancing about architecture. I think it's from Frank Zappa. I think he's the guy who said it first. And people talking about music takes it probably one step too far. Not that it doesn't make sense to review these books, I think it does, but I tend to do it on Goodreads. I think a whole video on them is probably overkill, especially considering that these days I don't have that much time to dedicate it to the channel in the first place. Speaking of Goodreads, by the way, even though I don't film video reviews to everything I read, I tend to review and to log most things I read on Goodreads. Not these days. These days I'm terrible. I need to sit down one afternoon and just log a few books from the past 6 months on there, but generally I'm good at keeping track of that stuff on Goodreads. So if you want to follow me on Goodreads, there's a link in the description box. I'd like that. I like engaging with people on Goodreads, using the messages, other functions of the website. Graphic novels, comic books. Comic books I tend not to review. Again, as with lyrical poetry, it's mostly a matter of not really being enough of an expert in the medium to be able to tell anything of value about it. I have reviewed graphic novels in the past. I don't think those are among my strongest reviews by any stretch of the imagination. I might possibly review Persepolis by Marjan Satrapi. Hopefully I haven't butchered her name in the near future, but we'll see. Oh, and finally, Goosebumps. I read Goosebumps all the time. I reread these suckers constantly. It's been my dream since I started the YouTube channel to film a 62 video review series about the Goosebumps books, each video lasting at least half an hour. It will be like the most ambitious reviewing project ever achieved in the history of YouTube. Yeah, maybe not anytime soon. what do you think about all the points I raised in the video? Would you, if you are reviewers yourselves, if you engage with other people and talk about books, do you use my same approach? Do you tend to favor the stuff you're passionate about and to avoid books and content where you would need to post or to give a negative review? Or do you think that's wrong? Do you think it's important to talk and to speak up even when you dislike something and to explain the reasons why you did? And do you think that's something that should be done even though people are not going to appreciate it, even though it's going to create the inevitable small shitstorm? Let me know in the comment section below. I'm really interested to read what you think about this, and thank you as always for watching. Before you leave, I highly recommend you check out Skillshare. Go in the description box, click on that link. You're going to get a 2-month free subscription. That's very generous, and in those 2 months you can check out as many classes as you want. One of my favorite things on Skillshare is that each of these classes allows you to engage with other people taking it through some of its functions, through the discussion board in particular. If you are entering a class about writing, about drawing, about any form, and any art form, any creative art form, you'll be able to share what you've created, to share your short story, to share your drawings with other people, and it creates a very nice seminar type of environment where you can actually improve on what you're doing. One thing that I think I didn't realize at all as a teenager is that your peers' feedback is really what makes you improve and what makes a better artist out of you. If you don't get it, you will not be hurt, but you will still, you'll carry on being probably mediocre. So take advantage of this opportunity. A class I really enjoyed and loved recently is about sketchbook illustrations and about creating a map of a place you care about. The class was given by illustrator and author Mike Lowery, and it's an ideal first class on Skillshare because it's very fast, it's highly entertaining, it's super fun. As a huge Dungeons and Dragons nerd, I love drawing fantastic imaginative maps, and it will showcase how Skillshare can be a great place to improve your skills, share what you create with others, and get an education about something you're passionate about. I highly recommend you check it out, and once again, thank you for watching the video. Thank you to the people at Skillshare for this sponsorship opportunity, and I will see you in the next video. Bye guys.